Welcome to another session of Ask the Expert on Contingent Workforce Strategies LinkedIn group. And guess what, guys? We're here talking about an incredibly hot topic, the topic of direct sourcing. And we want to talk about the truth, the myth, and some of the best practices when thinking about finding your own workers within the contingent workforce program and bringing them on and engaging them. And we have an amazing person and a close friend that I've known for many, many years in the industry. And she comes at this topic through true experience and, quite honestly, an unbiased perception and um, perspective on the topic. So Maria Goyer, welcome to Ask the Expert, and thank you for taking the time to talk about direct sourcing with me.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So tell me a little bit about your experience, because I mentioned it
Yeah.
in the intro, but you really have, we've known each other for a long time, and
Well,
you've worked in different environments for different vendors, etc. And it'd be great to kind of give a perspective on that.
sure. I started in the contingent workforce industry about 30 years ago. I was in the credit industry for 12, and then I came into contingent workforce when the IRS was cracking down on companies using independent contractors. And so one of the, like, employee number 5 at Pro Unlimited, and we started doing the payroll and the IC compliance. And then in the late 90s, we really saw the need for contingent workforce management. So the MSP. So we were one of the pioneers in building the MSP program and what that meant for the industry. And then we built the technology for the VMS. So I've been around for a long time. Worked for many companies, worked
And you have so
globally.
many different
Huh?
perspectives on the industry, right? And
Yeah,
some of the trends that are old that become new again often and things like that. So it is
yeah,
amazing how that becomes the way, right? What's old
exactly.
is new again. Just give it a few years, even
And
in
it'll come back
financial.
around. Yeah.
So, the direct sourcing topic is
Uh-huh.
very hot on a lot of people's lists these days. And I think, you know, there's a few reasons why. Um, and it could be a cost savings measure. It could be, you know, more so a talent issue where
Yeah.
employers probably are looking to take more initiative and put in efforts themselves to find talent. Like, why is it important? Like, why is it to the forefront now and such a hot topic for folks?
Well, I think one of the things is, you talked about the talent shortage. I mean, direct sourcing, we used to call it, 10, 12 years ago, redeployment, right? You have all this known talent that once they finish their assignment, they walk out the door. Or you've gone through, 10 interviews with this person for a full-time position, and they're your silver medalist, and you just can't hire them, and you're letting them walk out the door, even though they could be doing contingent assignments. You have the manager referrals or the contractor referrals that you would send this known talent to your staffing agencies, and they would come back to you at a full staffing markup. So this known talent that you have just walks out the door, and if it does come back to you, it come back at a much higher price. So redeployment started the first part of direct sourcing, which was redeploying your known talent, your referrals, your silver medalists, your previous payroll workers. And then it really evolved to, okay, now we have these known uh, pools of talent for certain roles that we use all the time. Like, we always use IT project managers. We're always looking for data scientists. Now we're going to create a talent pool for this type of labor that we need. And we're going to fill that talent pool with, yes, the previously known talent, but we also now need to go out to the marketplace and attract more talent into that talent pool instead of just going to our staffing suppliers. And one way we can do that is with our brand. So using our brand in the marketplace to bring in talent to those critical talent pools of talent that we use all the time. And by doing that, you're able to then drive cost savings. So we always use 150 of these people. We know we're going to put 400 people in that talent pool. We know our project starts in July. We're going to start interviewing in April. How do we do all this, right? And so from that grew the talent pool technology. You know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? I need a place to put all these people. I need a place to communicate them and curate with them and give them a notice of, you know, opportunities and have them apply. The same reason why we built VMSs, right? Because we didn't want to email resumes to managers. We wanted to shortlist resumes. We needed a place to store all that. So it's, you know, the talent, you know, seeing the talent pool technology, because, you know, being a pioneer with the VMS technology has been really exciting for me because, you know, it's a whole new thing, but it's all built on necessity, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons why direct sourcing is on the top of everyone's tongue, is because it's really starting to evolve. And it's no longer just redeployment. We're now bringing things in, and it's no longer the contingent workforce. I mean, the talent acquisition teams can tap into these pools too, right? And they can pull from that, and they can, you know, notify their silver medalists, if you want to do future roles, come into our talent pool, and give them that invite. So direct sourcing.
Yeah, it's amazing when you talk about that, because that brings up this whole total talent management topic. And with the compression of longevity of traditional full-time employees, and generally contract and temporary workers tend to work, if they're good, stay on longer too. So the difference between a full-time, you know, the tenure of a full-timer and a contractor are kind of almost converging.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and more individuals are open to contract as much as they are open to full-time. And so that, you know, are you going to have a full-time role this time around, or a contract? And it also, contract often leads into full-time employment too, right?
Exactly.
So it's an interesting perspective how that is all converging and merging.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who do a contingent role will get an opportunity to get into a full-time role, or when the budget opens up, they'll hire from their contingent workforce. And those silver medalists, you know, they've gone, when you're interviewing for a full-time position, you go through skill testing, you go through multiple rounds of interviews, you're studying the company. You know more about the company and how that company works than a contingent worker coming in from a staffing agency. So you have all this knowledge. So when you come in through the talent pools, those people, whether it's previous employees or silver medalists, they're more likely to stay on the assignment. They're more likely to be more productive at the beginning because they know more about the company than somebody coming in off the street. And they have that experience having gone through everything they've gone through. So, you know, there's a lot of benefits of talent pools that go far beyond cost savings from going out to a staffing agency, because these people are faster time to productivity.
And you're right. It's a proactive approach to your talent, right? So instead of, oh, I have a need, and then reacting, it's building, engaging your talent pools proactively. And then when the time is needed, they're already there, you know who's available, and it's a quicker process. And like you've said, it's time to productivity, because they're either former employees or people that you've engaged over time, and they know your environment, they're interested in working for you, and they jump right into it, right? You're not trying to sell them on the job. they already want to work for you and they're engaged in this process along the way, right? So it's
And
very much a proactive approach.
and you talk about the engagement, because so the technology was the same need that we had when we built VMS, right? The managed MSP that we did for contingent workforce, we're now building managed direct sourcing, or we call it direct sourcing simplified, because MDS sounds like a drug or a disease or something. So you gotta find a different name for it. But the curation, you remember back in staffing, right? You had a 3-tier model. You had the recruiter who dealt with the client. You had the sourcer who went out and found the talent, looked into what groups they belonged to, and it went to their events and stuff, and that's how you found talent. And then you had the handler, right? And the handler was somebody who was just great with people, who would just keep in touch with them. Hey, how's it going? What are you looking for? Do you want to learn new technology? Do you want to travel? Do you only want to do part-time? And that handler person, I guess that's too much of a government term now, but
Relationship management and
relationship
engagement
management
person, yes.
is now called
Engaged in the relationship.
curation,
Yeah.
right? And it's now the curation partner, which used to be the handler. So it's all these things that we did before, long time ago in staffing. We're just bringing it back into talent pool management. And our sourcing is different. Our how does it get to the client? Well, that's the VMS and the MSP, right? And how do we keep that person notified about things, keep them excited in the talent pool? It's a form of creation, but it's also a huge form of marketing, doing marketing campaigns, putting on things on social media. Marketing has a huge aspect in any talent pool program, more than people know, because you just can't put people in a pool and then not keep them excited or engaged. So
Well, that's
all these
why
concepts
it's
coming
why they
back.
call it employment branding. And
Yeah,
when you think of branding, you ultimately start to think about marketing. And so that whole
exactly.
idea of, if you're going to market your brand, you should be marketing your brand to prospective employees and
Talent.
candidates in your contingent workforce and engaging them, because
Yeah,
they're not only thinking about you to work for you, they're also thinking about your products and services. So having a good experience and proper branding
yeah,
through that employment experience and that candidate experience is as important, not only to hire them, but to potentially them as consumers of your product, right?
yeah,
So it's so important to have good ambassadors in what you're doing, especially in this program as well. Like, from your experience, one of the things that often holds people back are the obstacles. And,
mhm,
you know, they think about the obstacles or they don't think about the obstacles, and then they hit a roadblock and then it fails.
yeah,
So what are some of the obstacles that you've seen? Is it how things are structured? Is it because it's too technology dependent, and or internal politics? What have you seen out there, and why some of these things bump into these obstacles? What are the main obstacles? And then of
yeah,
course I'll ask more about how do we resolve those, and because when there's a problem, there's always an answer.
yeah, definitely. So a lot of the obstacles that we've seen over the last few years with direct sourcing is, okay, now we have talent pool technology, right? And so Mr. Client is like, okay, I've got an MSP, I've got a VMS, now I've got a talent pool, and then that talent pool has redeployment, but then it has marketplaces that tie into it, and then it has skills testing like Glider AI, and then it has credentialing, and now I've got all these people I've got to manage. Like, this is overwhelming. This is going to confuse my managers. I want one place for the managers to go, right? And so from that, is really this managed direct sourcing, this direct sourcing simplified, is your managers should just go into the VMS, right? They should put in their requisitions, and then working with the MSPs as a tier 0 supplier, that first then goes into the direct sourcing engine and puts out candidates. And then after 24 to 48 hours, then it goes out to the rest of the staffing agency. So it really takes working with the MSPs to adopt their model, like don't shortlist on the talent pool candidates, doing the tier 0, managing it then out to the suppliers, and also not sending every new rec to the talent pools. Starting that planning and focusing on the top 10 roles that we're going to do talent pooling on the first year of the program. And I think that's where I've seen a lot of programs fail, is they go, okay, every rec goes to the talent pool. And they're like, well, how come we don't have candidates? Well, it's not planned, right? I think other things that you'll hit with adoption is people not wanting third parties to use their brand, right? Oh, no, we can't have somebody else out there marketing with our brand. It's going to cause co-employment, or we're going to have misclassification.
Yeah, so
And it's
some
like,
myths, right, of
yeah,
legal
myths.
aspects
Yeah.
often
And
are thrown
go
out
ahead.
as obstacles. Yeah.
Yep. And it's not, if it's properly communicated, what the sourcing is for, who the players are, what we're doing together, then you can mitigate those risks, right? And you can overcome them, and you can work together on the branding. You can have final approval on the branding. And it's just, you need that branding to bring in the talent that you want, who want to work in your environment, for them to be more successful. I think
Yeah.
another
So,
thing go ahead.
oh no, it just you hit on that overwhelmed aspect, right?
Mhm.
And because of that, so many components, it often you get overwhelmed and you don't move forward with it, as
Right.
opposed to the whole idea of some baby steps and knowing the partners and then making sure they integrate well,
Yeah.
uh, is something that definitely, I think, probably rings true with a lot of program leads looking at this today.
Yeah. And I think putting that, just like we did with Contingent, that MSP program, putting that managed direct sourcing program over this ecosystem, and then the clients, as they, grow or mature their programs, can plug more things into that ecosystem, but they're still dealing with one partner who's managing all of that for them. It just really makes it direct sourcing simplified. And, I think that the other thing that is critical is the candidate experience, right? So the candidate goes into the direct sourcing tool, they come in through a brand, and now they go to skills testing and credentialing, and then they're in the VMS for doing interviewing, and then they're get all of a sudden meet the EOR provider, right? So the candidate experience has been very clunky and confusing, and I think that's really something that everyone is focusing on right now, is a consistent candidate experience all the way through. Clear communication, handling things for the candidates, so they don't have to do all this stuff in the VMS. They don't, that through integrations they get from the talent pool into the VMS. So, I think the candidate experience is really critical. And I think that's where a lot of people fall out, because they just don't understand, who am I talking to today? Who are you? What do you do? I think those are some of the obstacles that we've been dealing with. And I think we found some pretty good solutions out there in the marketplace. I think clients are now taking a step back and really looking at, hey, this is pretty great. And now there's solutions that are coming forth to handle all those obstacles, and to talk to people to, allay their fears about using the brand and so forth. So,
Have you seen how the current ecosystem potentially is also an obstacle to direct sourcing, where, maybe it's an MSP that it's been outsourced to, that's owned by traditional staffing firms that are slow to adopt something that may,
mm-hmm.
upset their ecosystem?
Yeah, they're
Or is
afraid
there any
that
of those types of things that you've seen out there?
Yeah.
And how have some clients addressed the change? Because, we've been talking for years on direct sourcing, and then it's finally starting to come into its own. Like, how are the MSPs perceiving this? How are they potentially bringing it in, or are they also an obstacle? And have you seen that it's got to be separate from the MSP, or is it, are more and more MSPs embracing this?
It's it's kind of 50-50 right now, because I'm really hearing a lot of people saying, well, I don't want this to go through the VMS. Or I don't want this population to go through the VMS. This is our gig. This is our this isn't managed by the VMS, or the MSP saying, well, we've got our procedures in place and processes in place, and we don't want this to impact our supply base, because then our tier ones won't give us, the best pricing that they're doing. And I think what you're seeing anyways is that managers are saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Managers are going out there and they're finding the candidates themselves, because they're using their brand to go out on the boards and say, hey, I need this type of talent. So over the last, 10 years, we've seen the EOR population in MSPs grow from 5% to 30%. Some firms is now 40% of the payroll population. And hey, now clients are looking and saying, our managers are taking all this time to go out and find their own talent. Let's make it easier for them. Because when our managers are being more productive and we put all that talent into a talent pool that the MSPs and the VMS taps into, then our managers know that we're going out to the market, we're finding talent, we're not just relying on the staffing suppliers, and the managers can get back to doing what they're doing. So I think really any client, take a look at what is your EOR, AOR spend in your program, and that'll tell you what your managers are doing. They're going out and finding the talent themselves. And we have to adapt. And if they're going to do that, then let's make it easier. And the easier way to do that is by building talent pools.
So, we've talked about the whys, we've talked about some of the obstacles that people should foresee and start to think about. One of the things that we want to kind of have some takeaways, if I'm a program lead at a large contingent program, and I'm really intrigued and want to look at this direct sourcing topic and implement a program, what are some of the best practices in this to start with, and then continue down that approach to implementing a successful program?
I think one of the best things to do is to find an initiative within your company and associate your direct sourcing program to that initiative, whether it's cost savings, whether it's diversity and inclusion, faster time to market, whatever the company is focusing on right now, and tie that initiative into bringing in direct sourcing. So once you can then go out to the different teams like talent acquisition, you can go out to procurement for your independent contractors or your HR for your MSP program, and you can say, I've got a great idea that we're going to help the company move forward with these initiatives, and the direct sourcing program can help us get there, right? And one of the first things you talk about for a successful direct sourcing program is getting over the obstacles of using your brand to attract talent to the talent pools. Address that from the beginning with your legal, talent acquisition, HR, your contingent program, and really come to, well, why are we concerned that we won't have approval? We'll have approval. Is it because we think we'll have misclassification or risk that will come from co-employment? Well, let's make sure the messaging clearly states what the program is, who the players are, and how it impacts our company. Overcoming those obstacles, brand, overcoming, tying it into one of your continued initiatives with the companies really gets people on board. Then what you do is you find a manager for the ecosystem of your talent pool. You have one person to oversee, to measure, manage your contracts. You don't have to go through doing all 6 contracts for the different vendors you want to bring into the program. Pick a manager for your directing sourcing program who can guide you through, these are the best practices in the MSP, like not shortlisting the direct sourcing candidates. On the top of the resumes that go through to the managers, clearly say, this candidate was sourced through our direct sourcing program. And then doing campaigns with the managers. I used to always tell the salespeople when I was doing MSP, okay, you've sold this to 8 people. I have to go sell it to 20,000 managers, right?
The
And
change
so
management component, right? And communication
exactly,
strategy internally.
yeah. And that's what you have to do with direct sourcing, is you have to go out there and show the benefits, faster time to productivity, not letting knowledge just walk out the door, experience, bringing in our returning retirees, where these people come from, how do these are future employees that we can hire from. We're bringing them in from diverse areas, to help with our DI&E, right? And so really bringing that all in and that communication, bringing in one partner to manage the whole ecosystem and help fix that, fill that in, and then building the best practices into the MSP program. And with your VMS, make it simple for managers. What do your managers do to access direct sourcing? They log into the VMS and they put in a rec, right? Then the system does the rest. Tier 0 is direct sourcing if it's this type of category or this type of role. Your managers do everything in the VMS. They don't have to go into all these other places. Make it simple.
It's funny because I did a webinar with one of the early direct sourcing technology companies, and their initial implementations made sure that it fit into the existing ecosystem as opposed to pushing your managers into multiple systems and logging in and logging out. So those are that's such amazing advice and becoming more and more the norm. And so, looking at it to make sure you've got the processes in place, you've got the managers, the manager of the whole kind of
program
components.
ecosystem. Yep.
And then making sure that it fits into the existing ecosystem as opposed to tries to parallel it or disrupt it, right? That you often hear with new marketing ideas, right? Got to always disrupt, but
awareness.
Sometimes disruption is not the right way to create success, right?
Yeah. And awareness, continued marketing campaigns in your curation of the workers, continuing marketing campaign with the managers so that they're aware of the benefits. They want to help support the company initiatives. They refer people that they know who think are good. Those people, you wouldn't refer somebody if you didn't think they were great, right? So it helps everyone.
That's amazing advice. So Maria, thank you for taking the time out of your day
thanks for having me.
To sit down and talk about direct sourcing in a really kind of unfiltered manner, unbiased manner, and just, from experience. So I really appreciate that very much. And hopefully we talk again soon.
We definitely will. Thanks so much, Jeff. All right. Take care.